I titled today's mind map, You Can Have Whatever You Want by Seeking Within and Finding Within. Today we discuss being your best friend. The seeming paradox of acknowledging being your best friend is that you experience happiness and fulfillment with relationships. Or another way of saying it is experiencing your inherent fulfillment and happiness during relationships with others. So thus, through being your best friend, you realize unconditional happiness and fulfillment are attributes of your true nature, and practically speaking, actualize them in and as relationships with others, or experience happiness and fulfillment in moments of solitude. It's your choice. You feel true freedom to choose how you would like happiness to appear as you have accepted the kingdom within. And all that is related is now ideally automatically added onto you through imagination, the way you'd like. Growing up, I had wonderful friends. And although at times it didn't appear that way, as we would quibble on many things, it was at a later point where I realized that what we were doing was we were bringing awareness to the limiting identification. That was our service to each other. Like lion cubs who, through play fighting, although for us it was playing with conversational wits, the game of outwitting each other. The cubs learn how to survive, bring in the food, and move in synchronicity with each other in the spirit of harmony. And to the degree that they embrace the playful chaos, they facilitate transformation to harness their inherent power and speed through the unflinching courage they learned together. Now, humanity has been bestowed two gifts to actualize our true infinite nature. Two gifts to seek and find within. Actually, two gifts to acknowledge seeking and finding are truly one. And by that I mean what you seek you already have. These two gifts simply prove it, as stated in the Corpus Hermeticum. They were mind and speech, and also, like it was stated in the Corpus Hermeticum in the same passage, these two gifts are equal to immortality, as mentioned in Thursday's video. Not only do we acknowledge that the I is unconditional bliss, love, happiness, fulfillment, the Hermetica also acknowledges the I is eternal. So the two gifts of mind and speech are equal to the I, which is eternal, and in context for our conversation today, may be applied to realizing we already are our best friend, guiding us through life to actualize ideal attributes of life as life experiences. As it also says in the Corpus Hermeticum, that we are guided by the twain, which means the two, unto the choir of gods and blessed ones. So in 2018, which was shortly after I made flow a priority in 2017, we can also say authentic being as a priority. And by this I mean also representing your true nature of bliss in the various experiences of life, like we discussed in Tuesday's video, which I'll link to in the description. I came across a book called How to Be Your Own Best Friend by Mildred Newman. In there she said, the first thing is to realize that we've probably been looking in the wrong place. The source is not outside us. It is within. She also goes on to say, it's as if we're waiting for permission to start living fully. But the only person who can give us that permission is ourselves. We are accountable only to ourselves for what happens to us in our lives. We must realize that we have a choice. We are responsible for our own good time. So the book inspired me because although I thought I had released a lot of identification to seeking external validation or approval, and I was already my best friend, it appeared I was still seeking approval and validation externally in these areas. And how did I know? When I was physically around others and when they were physically not around. When they were physically around, I would seek approval for acknowledgement of successes, and although not to a high degree as before, it was still there showing up in various different ways. The subconscious belief of needing the external to validate and approve would play out in all sorts of not-so-ideal behaviors and conversations. When they were not physically around, I would not feel comfortable being in solitude. This is because I subconsciously believed that I needed people to be physically around me as a condition for happiness and fulfillment. So I had an idea. What if on a Friday and Saturday night for the weeks to come, I sit in the car by myself and just be with myself? And then thoughts of, this is awkward, what will people think of this, or whatever that seemed to indicate seeking externally would show up in mine. These were thoughts which spawned from identification to subconscious beliefs related to neediness of external approval or validation from others to confirm fulfillment. Also, there was conditioning resulting in not experiencing inherent fulfillment during solitude. And this is how I knew it was time to take the opportunity. So for me, anything that I personally feel is something I genuinely desire to do, in this case, experience unconditional fulfillment in relationships with myself and others, if subconscious beliefs result in resistance, it is an indication of a true desire to release those self-imposed limitations. See, the I truly has no limitation. One may believe the I to have limitations and thus impose limitations on the I, and by I mean self. Or they may impose limitations on the two gifts, mind and speech, which are to be applied to actualize self. So that's what I did for the weeks that followed. Friday and Saturday, I would sit in the car in the parking lot, simply being with myself. It was a nice parking lot with a nice view, and what started out as chaos experienced as discomfort was transmuted into chaos experienced as bliss by embracing chaos. Embrace, by definition, means hold closely in one's arms, especially as a sign of affection. I found that there were moments where I could sit still and enjoy the silence experience, which was abiding as the I. And through this mental clarity, there were moments where insights would show up in mind as ideal inner voice dialogue. This ideal inner voice dialogue, which once felt like a conversation with a friend, evolved into a conversation with one who we may call a guru. And thus mind and speech are the inner guides, as stated in Hermetica, to apply, to actualize the true nature of I. So the questions that were asked within and the answers that were received within were authentic and accurate and proven as ideal manifestations of life. So now in a video I released a few months ago by popular request, I mentioned I eventually crowned this voice as Holy Guardian Angel. I'll link in the description to it. And you don't need to distinguish it as Holy Guardian Angel like I do. I like my mind remaining magical like that. You could say best friend or whatever you'd like. And the purpose of being your best friend is not to discourage relationships with others, rather to acknowledge that as beliefs of seeking externally are dissolved, you reveal your inner best friend, and this may be chosen to manifest in and as ideal relationships with others as you have sought and found within. And what you seek within and find within appears. This also results in the reconciliation of the spiritual meaning of seeking. Seeking means already having. Like how I say, desire means already having. So, speaking from my experience, my relationships transformed further from the evolution of this inner best friend relationship. There were times that followed where I would have once thought I needed to seek someone to talk to, discuss matters of the heart. Yet all hearts are truly one heart, so thus a conversation within, from the heart, proves to be equally fulfilling as a conversation on matters of the heart with others. Again, not to discourage conversation with others. Everyone here knows I enjoy conversations with others. Rather to experience mutual respect and conversation from the heart with others by acknowledging that it all comes from within. See, when you realize you already have everything, and by that I mean, can prove it in imagination, as imagination is reality. the relationship with the subconscious mind transforms. Simply put, you listen to yourself, trust yourself, and know how to speak to yourself in a way where you can accept whatever suggestion you give to yourself, just like that. And here we're speaking from a spiritual perspective, intentionally to return straight to the source of bliss, happiness, and fulfillment, which is you. The appearance of friendships is the work of the unseen. Not my will, but thine be done. It happens automatically by the animating power. So your inner best friend facilitates everything for you. It is said in many traditions that the holy guardian angel facilitates everything and also brings a person back to their source and encourages them to live from that premise. How so? Well, let's look at my experience, and perhaps you have had a similar experience. Think of a person you talked to where you presented a challenge. They comforted you, and then you started thinking ideally from your vision. You can also do this with yourself. For example, you might say you think or feel that something is going to be challenging, and then your inner friend says, "Why do you think or feel that?" Without shame, judgment, or condemnation. An honest, sincere question, in which the response may be, "It is believed to be challenging in this kind of circumstance." And the response is, "I understand that it could be experienced that way. Could it be experienced in another way? How would you experience it ideally?" From which the answer reveals itself and you accept that suggestion, because it is a true, authentic self-suggestion. So this template can be used to engage the inner conversation, or a variation of it may be used to imply the same thing, whatever works best for you. And this is precisely why, for many thousands of years, it was said that the holy guardian angel acted as an intermediary between God and humanity to bridge the mental gaps by releasing beliefs of separation occurring within the mind of the individual. This entire life experience from a spiritual perspective is one of acknowledging that you are already that which you seek, all that you desire to be, are fulfilled, blissful, happiness itself, and you get to actualize these as forms in whatever way you desire. So mind and speech bring us to living from our ideal by asking and responding to the questions within. Is what is occurring in mind from the premise of seeking fulfillment externally or realizing fulfillment within? So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, "I realize that I am my best friend. I seek and find within my heart to live authentically, ideally, and automatically from my heart and intuition, to experience life ideally accordingly." If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.